Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video by yours truly. We are going to be talking about the path of elation, how to play it the most efficiently inside of the swarm disaster simulated full counter. All right, my bad, bro. We're going to be talking about the path of elation, how to play it most efficiently inside of the simulated universe swarm disaster. And there's a lot to talk about. I want to go over the board and what is the concept to be successful at conquering the board and getting the most benefits out of buffs, Curios, and all that good stuff. I also want to go over briefly the best buffs to go for inside of the Elation path, as well as its formation subclass paths, the path of remembrance and the path of abundance. I also want to go over what you should avoid doing. There's a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so off rip, this is one of the most important things to establish. How do you go about getting through the board? What's the best method of practice? And we're going to talk about that. By the way, I'm sitting in my chair like L from Death Note. I have my feet on top of my chair and my knees are facing towards the ceiling. And, well, I feel my intelligence increasing exponentially. And after you guys get done watching this video, you will probably have a very profound comprehension as to complete the Elation path, which by the way belongs to the god Aha, who is the god of humor, evidently. All right, let me stop. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about this. This is the very beginning of this entire ordeal. This is the first board you run into inside of the first plane. As you can see, now it's always going to be random, but as you can see right now, we have a treasure chest, we have the transaction domain, and then we have a elite fight up here that's enhanced, which that's usually a nightmare. But the concept, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is very simple. This path, its superpower, pretty much allows you to transform all of these on the board into something in particular. It could be a reward, which is the treasure chest right here. It can be a video game. It can be occurrence, sword, elite. It can be literally anything. But the number one goal that you want to do is ideally transform everything inside of treasure chests and video games. These are going to yield you the most reward. They're going to allow you to get access to level 3 buffs, Curios, cosmic fragments, which is currency utilized to buy more buffs and Curios. Essentially, in a perfect world, you're going to start right here, right? In a perfect world, you want to carve a path like this that pretty much ends up with a plethora of treasure chests and rewards and video games. I'm sorry, treasure chests and video games. If you can carve a path where every single thing ends up being a treasure chest in a video game, the amount of buffs you're going to have when it's all said and done is going to be absolutely insane. So let's briefly go over how this path works in terms of its buffs. First and foremost, you do not have to do any fights to reap the benefit of the passive bonus. The passive bonus says for every domain the allies pass through, the follow-up attack damage dealt by all allies receive a random stat increase. And essentially what this means is every time you complete a domain and go to a next one, there's going to be a follow-up attack damage bonus that your entire party is going to receive. But it's a random increase. Sometimes it's a 20% increase. Sometimes it's a 2% increase. Sometimes it's a 7% increase, but it's always going to be a random percent multiplier increase every time you go through to a new domain. So what this means is you don't have to fight. If you go through nothing but occurrence domains or reward and treasure chest domains, you're still going to be getting an increase to your follow-up attack damage for your entire party. So because of this, you never have to fight unless you are forced to fight. Ideally, treasure chests and video games, as I mentioned, you're going to hear me say that a lot probably. That's the best way to go about it since you're going to get this bonus no matter what. Now, coming down here, these are the buffs you have a chance to land on when you roll the dice. Select a domain and apply 1 random happiness to it. This is obviously the most valuable one because it allows you to choose any domain on the board and try to roll it into a treasure chest or video game, ideally. Now, by the way, I keep mentioning treasure chests and video games, but you can also roll them into an enhanced elite combat domain or an enhanced swarm domain. The thing is, though, you can get better rewards from the treasure chest and the video game. That's why it's always worth going that over the other alternative options. Whereas another path, you might get a benefit from fighting an elite or something. There's no real extra benefit for this path. So Yeah, that's why it makes sense. Anyways, these other buffs pretty much do the exact same thing as this buff, only they're much more restricted or confined. Basically, you can only apply a happiness to the domain it specifies. So select a combat domain, which is just one sword. Elite domain, that's 2 swords. And then the occurrence domain is the question mark. And know that the question mark that's white and the question mark is purple. Those are 2 entirely different ones. That is not considered an occurrence domain, the purple one. The only one that's an occurrence domain is the white question mark. Anyways, so that's how these buffs work. And essentially, I'll go ahead and pull up a video footage right here. So we got this one right here, right? The combat one that basically says when we go into combat, for the first 2 turns, everything we do is pretty much a follow-up attack or considered a follow-up attack, which is a very strong damage boost for combat purposes. However, I told you guys we're never trying to go into combat, right? So we're gonna re-roll that if we can. We always, by the way, that was something important that I did there. We always have to go and look at the board before we commit to what we're gonna do. So this pops up. This is the buff it gave me. The first thing I'm gonna do is click on this little symbol down here. And can we go ahead and minimize that? You know what I'm saying. It's the triangle symbol. And what's going to happen is I'm going to be able to get a good view at the board before I commit to my decision. Okay, so I'm looking at the board and I'm saying, oh, there's an occurrence right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually say, screw this buff. Let's try and see if we can get something that can transform occurrence domains into something else. All right, so we go ahead and use our reroll. And look at that, we got lucky and got the rare roll, which allows us to choose any domain on the map. So what we do is we confirm, we come up here, we can choose any one of these domains, right? But you want to be strategic with it. What path am I going to end up going down? And it looks like the path I probably ended up choosing was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm probably going to do something along the lines of that. You want to draw the path out on purpose and make it as long as possible, because the more things you jump through, you're going to be able to get an increased chance of re-rolling more treasure chests and more video games. So it's cool to draw the path out, but obviously you do want to be considerate of the planar disarray bonus that's given to the boss. So you can't make too many moves, but make enough to where you're getting a bunch of treasure chests and balls. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyways, I'm going to click on this first one because that's where I'm going to go anyway. And we're going to try and transform that into hopefully a video game or an adventure. There we go. All right, the video game and adventure is the same meaning, my bad, but we got a video game right there. So now we can click on this bad boy right here, go inside and play our video game instead of going to a random occurrence. And the video games are very massive because you can literally get 100 cosmic fragments, a guaranteed level 2 blessing, and a curio. That's 3 freaking things in one singular instance. This is why all you want to do is play video games and treasure chests. Now, if you have Imbibe Lune, it's an easy clap. I don't even think about using anybody else. He's the most broken unit in the game for this. I would make the argument that you should pick up Imbibe Lune just because he's so efficient at doing this. However, I'm pretty sure Yukong, because she has a speed buff and she has a bow, she's probably a very efficient option to do stuff like this as well. But man, is this guy super comfy to use for stuff like this. He just flies through the map, crushes all the barrels, and you always get your level 3 reward. So that's the entire concept of the board. If you're getting video games and treasure chests, you are winning, my friend. Let's go ahead and wait for this to finish, and then you'll see the benefits that we got just from playing this video game. So on the left is always the 100 cosmic fragments. The middle is the level 2 guaranteed reward. We're going to go for either Hunt Path or Elation right there. That's a pretty hard pick because both of those are very good buffs. But obviously we're running Elation Path, so we'll go with that. And then finally, we get our Curio as well. Ooh, let's go ahead and pause this. It's pretty crucial. So what buff would I choose right here? Honestly, this is a really good one for the Elation Path. And the reason being is it says the next time you enter an occurrence domain, no occurrence will be triggered. However, with the Elation Path, you can avoid occurrence domains as I just did by transforming them into video games and treasure chests. So this is a very strong option for the Elation Path because you're able to do that. On the other hand, this is also a really good option in the long run because you can make a bunch of cash, but I probably chose this. Yep, I did. So I did choose that. It's a really good buff. Free 3-star blessing, and then I probably never will run into an occurrence domain, and we bricked incredibly hard right there for the Elation Path. Like, we are not using nihility whatsoever. Maybe we should have thrown in a Kafka. So you get the concept there. So let's go back though, so that we can explain this a little bit more efficiently. Continuing on, now that we completed that, let's see what we get on this. Select one combat domain and apply one random happiness to it. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Click on the triangle. Let's take a look at our board. Oh, we got a combat domain here, combat domain, combat domain. But which one aligns with the path I'm actually trying to go down? I want to definitely pick this up, right? So we're probably going to choose this. We're not going to go here because if we go down here, we won't be able to collect this. So we're going to go all the way down here, then up, then to the transaction, and then straight up here and probably try to transform that into a reward as well. But this is the tactic you want to do. What path is going to allow me to collect the most rewards, and how can I transform as much things as I can into treasure chests and video games? So coming back here, we took a look at the board. Now we're going to click confirm, and we're going to transform this hopefully into a video game or a treasure chest. And look at that, another video game. So this is how this path works. It's purely luck. It's RNG, but you'd be amazed how many times things can turn into a video game and treasure chest. Ideally, again, if you can turn every single thing you encounter into a video game and treasure chest, you're going to have a ridiculous amount of buffs when it's all said and done. The only time I don't play video games and treasure chests is when I have money to go into a transaction domain and buy buffs or curios, or when I want to collect 1 or 2 swarm buffs, which for the elation path, typically the only swarm propagation buffs I want to collect is the one that applies spores to everyone, which is a level 3 buff, and then the one that reduces my damage when I consume skill points. Those are usually the only 2 I'll even go for elation path, because you don't need the swarm buffs with this path. You're doing follow-up attacks and freezing people to all eternity. So the propagation buffs isn't as valuable for this path, especially when you're using people like Jing Yuan or Kafka. They're not basic attack people. Blade is, but not Jing Yuan and Kafka and Yang Xing. None of those guys are using basic attacks, and the propagation path gives you so much buffs for basic attacks. Anyways, that's the whole entire concept of the board. Let's go ahead and move on to the buffs. Okay, so I want to briefly go over, you know, when you collect 3 buffs, you always get your elation path bonus. Once you collect 6 buffs, you then get the enhanced path bonuses. And I want to talk about the best way to go about this. The first buff you want to collect is going to be this one right here. When entering battle, path resonance regenerates 40% energy, right? So as soon as you enter battle, 40% energy already replenished. But that's not the value. The value is when a character launches a follow-up attack, path resonance additionally regenerates 5% energy. Essentially, this allows you to fill your path resonance up so that you can use your ult more consistent throughout a fight. And the reason this is very important is because of the resonance interplay buffs. The abundance and remembrance have very strong interplay buffs for the elation path. Abundance says when you deal elation damage, when path resonance elation deals damage, when you use your ult, randomly dispel 1 debuff on 1 ally. And this thing is a stackable. So, because I know this, Kafka once taunted 3 different people on my team. I popped the elation path buff and it removed all 3 debuffs. So it's not just 1 debuff when you pop the ult. It's however many times it ticks, which is insanity. So it can dispel a bunch of debuffs all at once. That's one reason it's strong. You need at least 3 abundance path buffs to make that happen. For the remembrance path, it says deals ice damage, or when the elation path resonance deals ice damage, there's a 150% base chance to freeze the enemy target for 1 turn. 150% base chance is so freaking high. That's pretty much a guaranteed freeze. So there is a catch here. The elation path does random follow-up damage for different elements, and there's a plethora of elements in the game, right? So there's a chance that it won't deal ice element damage when you pop the burst, but there's a high chance it will. Anyways, anytime it does ice damage, it's going to apply that chance to freeze, and the freeze usually goes through. Now, this will come in, and it'll be a very important synergy when we talk about remembrance path buffs. But basically, your ult can freeze the freaking enemy, just your ult alone, which makes remembrance with elation incredibly broken. After you choose your first, when you get your 6 buffs from the elation path, you choose your first bonus. What's the next one you should choose? I think personally, this one is a very important one because of Sensory Pursuit. Each stack increases the received follow-up attack damage by 8%. And it basically says there's a 150% base chance to apply Sensory Pursuit when Elation deals damage. So you can apply like 5 stacks like that, and then you got a 40% follow-up attack damage bonus. This is the last one to apply, even though it's the strongest one and you get even more ticks. It's the last one to apply because you're really worrying about using your ult more often so that you can constantly freeze them and dispel buffs when needed. And this, it's only going to be used when you absolutely fill it up to the brim to deal a bunch of damage. That's why I choose it to use the last one. It's a double-edged sword because it's actually very strong. But on the other hand, now you're waiting to get to the level 2 buff. Not really waiting, but you are. Okay, so with regards to the best buffs to go for, obviously, if you're going to Elation path, you want to pick up every damn thing you can. Like, I don't think I need to go over what buffs you need to grab from the path you're running. You grab them all, obviously. But the synergy paths, remembrance and abundance, the best remembrance buffs and abundance buffs are clearly going to be the level 3 buffs, but you absolutely want to try and snag all 3 remembrance level 3 buffs if you can, because after an enemy is attacked 6 times, you have 120% base chance to become frozen for 1 turn. You're always attacking the hell out of the enemy, right? So attacking 6 times can happen in a single turn, literally. So because of this, having this up and enabling the freeze to happen more consistently in conjunction with the Elation path burst, that makes the freeze happen more consistently, and that's where these two here come into play, and they're very freaking powerful. As y'all all know, dissociation is the most broken buff in the game. As I explained in my previous video, it does true damage. So after a character breaks an enemy's weakness, there's a 100% base chance to apply dissociation, right? This is a very good one of the most powerful ones in the whole tree. But this one here is why it's important to freeze them with your Elation damage bonus formation little synergy, and because of this one. So when you couple these two together, now you can apply dissociation every time any enemy at all is frozen, period. You just have a chance, 100% base chance of applying that. So this buff, very powerful. Now for level 2, this takes the dissociation damage and sends it to the moon if you enhance it. It takes your dissociation damage and essentially removes the dissociation upon attacking them with anybody. This is how I do an auto attack for 800k with Lorcha, or you can punch them with Japard for 3 million. You know what I mean? It's not really the character doing it, it's the dissociation bonus fully enhanced with this level 2 synergy right here. So with all of that being said, the other ridiculous thing about this is because it removes the dissociation bonus, once you have this collected, you can just reapply it to them after already dealing absurd amounts of damage. So these are the most important ones to pick up. Obviously, all 3 if you can, if possible, especially these 2 right here. These are very important ones. And then this level 2 buff right here. Now, there's more buffs to collect. We can go over them all, but we'll save that for another day. The most core important ones to grab are going to be these for sure. Now, the abundance path, I like survivability. I love the survivability for this path. So whenever I choose it, I'll go for this one right here. I'll go for this one right here, and they're level 1 buffs. You generally pick them up on accident anyway. And then I'll go for this bad boy right here. When your HP is full, reduce their damage taken by 36%. Remember, damage reduction on a percent basis is the most valuable survivability, because no matter how hard they're hitting, that percent is going to take whatever the hell they're hitting and knock it down. And this is one of the buffs that does that. So as long as you keep everyone's HP full, you got a 36% damage reduction. That is just insanely valuable. Apart from this, if you're going for offense, the level 3 are, again, level 3 blessings. They're always going to be the most invaluable blessings for damage. And this does the same thing. These 2 right here are actually the damage bonus ones. This here is actually survivability. But then again, the damage is entirely predicated upon healing yourself. So even then, although this is a healing buff, it actually increases the damage of your dewdrop. So yeah, that's pretty much straightforward. It's kind of self-explanatory, honestly. And then the buff that everyone else is choosing, no matter what path they're running, is going to be the hunt path buff that says when a character breaks an enemy's weakness, their action advances forward by 100%. This is one of the most broken buffs in the entire simulated universe. You want to pick this up if you can, as well as the other one. There's one more too. After a character defeats an enemy, their action is advanced forward. Yeah, these 2 are just incredibly broken level 3 blessings. But with the Elation path and playing video games and treasure chests, you can absolutely collect every single buff I just mentioned. It's that broken. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is going to be which Curios should you strive to go for. We already talked about this one. Very good buff for the Elation path. But dice roll, dice roll, dice roll. That's the best one in the entire game because you can constantly roll for more treasure chests in video games. thus increasing level 3 blessings added to your roster, which is invaluable. This is a very strong one too, because you're playing so many video games and getting paid 100 cosmic fragments. You're going to have a lot of money. So you can go into the transactions and buy up level 3 blessings and 2 blessings and all that good stuff as well. So I like these two a lot. It's one of my favorites to go for. This one is going to be another banger. Gain 1 cheat after obtaining this curio. The cheat pretty much allows you to grab the rarest roll and then choose any domain to turn in for a chance to get another video game or treasure chest. Those are my top 3 picks right there. I love these 3 right here. There's many other good ones. I'll probably do a tier list on this down the road about my favorite ones overall. But yeah, my top 3 are going to be these for sure. And that's going to wrap up my Elation Path 5 billion IQ strategy, as in terms of playing it very efficiently. Hopefully I brought you guys some value. If I did, let me know down below. As always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.